hours since the last one. Since every one of these, I get so energized and I go off and start putting ideas and visions and plans together. And it's based on what people are experiencing, not what people are saying, not what people are teaching. It's the feedback from the result of the exposure to quality, high integrity, high intention people who want to help others. I mean, that's a pretty good, if LinkedIn had a filter like that, I would use it every time on Sales Navigator. We could just isolate that group. Maybe it's an idea. So anyways, Kelle's here today. Kelle is so much a personification of what we're hoping to become, but more importantly, what we already have become. And we should celebrate all the small and big victories everybody's had here, right? From either coming out of your shell or sharing something that you didn't know you'd have the opportunity to find an audience that was thoughtful enough and compassionate enough to hear it. Because your story then benefits all these people and doesn't have to have them have that same story for themselves to learn what you're sharing. So with that, Kelle, welcome. Share a little bit about, where you are at and what you see the future of what we're doing here. How's that?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. It's great to be back. And I do have to say, this is the first time I've been in my ball cap. I generally live in a ball cap probably 90% of my life since 2020. But I was running a little late this morning and I was like, how do I make it to my computer by 8:50? But I'm here and I'm so grateful to be here. And it's been a blast to watch what's been happening, Don. I've loved seeing some new people come on. Christy last Sunday crushed it. Mario always crushes it. I love Gretchen and Tara. I love that Christine's coming on tomorrow. There's just so much great energy and watching people blossom before our eyes. And I'm saying that even about myself. I love seeing and feeling what's happening to me because I feel like the more that we're sharing, positivity and just being there to support one another, that it just is bringing things together just so naturally. We were just talking before about you chatting with Kendra yesterday. I adore Kendra. She did an event here locally in person that was based pretty much the same on what we're doing here. You show up to this networking event. It's not about selling your thing. It's about let's connect with one another and get to know each other. And then also provide a speaker that they had that added value to everyone in a way. So I feel like there's this movement that's happening, and I'm just grateful to be on the ride and how it helps me, and it's pushing me out of my comfort zone in such a great way, and I'm loving it. I never thought that I would be talking about doing LinkedIn Lives or a YouTube channel or any of those things. But it's exciting and it's awesome to watch what comes your way when you face the world with positivity. I mean, I've always been that way, anyways, but when you surround yourself with people that align in the same manner, it's magic. I mean, there's just no other way to say it.
Well, you said quite a bit there, and it's so empowering and impassioned because that's what people need to do is move their life up to including superlatives, right? Get away from good enough or, I'm always happy but never satisfied, and that's my approach. I'm always grateful for what I have. And if someone would say, you can never get another thing, but you can never lose another thing, I would stop right here, right? But the key is all of these people are looking for the same thing, some level of happiness, right? And if success in business is making money, that's a great place for those people. But if people are into having money being the after effect of what they do and why they do it, then they don't ever have to worry about money because money will take care of them. And I think that's so important. People are always scheming. They're setting these little mouse traps. and they're going to spend their whole life building hundreds of these traps
Yeah.
when they could have just opened their door with a welcoming smile, and the world would have come to them.
Yes.
So it's, chasing versus running your own race. So anyways, let me introduce a lot of people. The key to this whole show is comments. That's what drives the subject. Hi, Alex. Thanks for coming. Great, nice, warm place to be. Hello, Don and Kelly. Hello. It's so nice to just say hello. That's an activity.
Yes.
That's a couple keystrokes, and that's being seen and being heard. And everybody's got a voice, right? And everybody's got a persona. Why not share it, especially on a social network, especially on video? The spotlight's right over there. Just move a few feet. Aletha's here. Thank you so much. We're getting so many regulars. Some are weekly regulars, daily regulars. But you know what it is? There were times in my career when I was actually driving to work and my whole mindset was a mess. Everything I was thinking was either something I didn't want to think, but I kept coming back to it. So what happened is I saw a park on my left, and I had appointments even. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to start walking. And when my mind clears up, I'll go to work, because that's who they're going to see. Right? They're not going to see what I didn't even want to have, let alone share it. Right? And the person who missed me really didn't miss me, because they would have got the wrong me. Mm-hmm. So, it's all about turning the dial, and it's easier. And I think what this show is getting to be is a lesson in just watching other people reinvent. My whole profile now is actually a direct mirror of what goes on here every day. So I added kinder. Now I say, visit a show and start thinking, believing, and acting like a winner, because that's what's coming out of it. So the message gets so pure because it can be justified in a video view. So what do you think about all these deeper, richer insights?
I mean, they're awesome. I've had so many great conversations about this lately with people. And, a big thing, and some people have a difficult time with this, is introspection, being able to take a look inside yourself, seeing other people bloom and accepting them for how they are, and is so great. But how often do we not turn that to ourselves, where we're not accepting ourselves for, how we look, what our weight is, what our job is, how much money we're making? That's a terrible thing to be telling ourselves, but we do it on an occasion, and have the idea that happiness is some destination that we're supposed to get to when we achieve something. Mm-hmm. When I find the love of my life, I'm finally going to be happy. Or when I get the dream job that I've been looking for, working hard for, I'm going to suddenly be happy. And it's like, no. It's so much simpler than that. And I think when you get there, because I certainly struggled, I haven't been living in this space my entire life by any means. But when you do finally arrive there and get it for the first time, you're like, man, that wasn't even that hard. What was I fighting? And what was I waiting for? We still have life knock us down on an occasion, but when you have self-awareness and it's like, I want to be back in that space, and I want to be around people that push me and inspire me to be kinder, brighter, gentler, not just to everyone, but also to myself. And, we do all tend to forget that. And in business, we were chatting a little bit about this before, talking about, you pulling over or to the park just now reminded me of, when people show up to sell something, there's nothing worse than being sold. And we've talked about that many times here. I want a connection with someone. I want to know what you do, what makes you tick. How can we work together? Because when you make those connections and those relationships, business ideas or business contacts or whatever it is for your business is going to go a direction that you never expected, because you likely opened a door that you never even saw existed to begin with. And every time you just go in for a sell to make a transaction, all you're doing is closing the door.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the key. Results do need attention. And if the results you're getting are not what you're wanting, it probably has a lot to do with what you're doing. And, it was interesting. When I'm into something, I'm totally in, right? I'm listening to audibles every day. I'm going through like 3 books a month, and I'm, repurposing my walks to listen to it while I'm walking, right? So I get my exercise and that. And every day I'm getting a tip. And today they had a study at McDonald's in Buenos Aires and another country. And the difference is all the kids who were leaving would get a balloon. And then they compared that with all the kids who were coming into the restaurant would get a balloon with their parents. And what they found is the people who got the balloon coming in spent 20% more than the people who got the balloon coming out. And what was even more interesting, coffee sales went up 20%, and kids don't drink a lot of coffee. So what happened is there was an appreciation for giving your child a balloon. And because of that, they were more interested in spending more money, taking more time. And what it says is it's the law of reciprocity. And if anything, I give this Audible credit. It allowed me to say that word finally, because and I kept hearing it. And I said, oh, that's how you say it. So I got a good pronunciation, and I don't know how much time and apologies is going to save me in the future. But the other thing is having fun with it is really taking time to reflect. Too many people are moving too fast, taking too much action. It's like going in the wrong direction and deciding to speed up. It really should be a time to get to the park, pull over.
Yes.
Time should wait for you, right? You should ultimately, one of the best ways to get satisfaction is be in control. Have the choices for you to make, not having to be a choice for somebody else to make. Building your own dream, not somebody else's.
Yes.
Right? And that's so important to people. And all they got to do is take inventory and set a chart. And I know most people won't. And the ones who do can't or won't keep doing it. And that's why having a collaboration group, having a working group, that anybody can bop in here at 9 a.m. my time, 11 a.m. Eastern, and catch 20, 30 minutes of their favorite people, not their favorite show. And one more thing that's remarkable, because I'm always looking at what people are looking at too, is in the last, I don't know how many episodes, not one word about LinkedIn has come up. No one's mentioned a post, a comment, a like, a strategy, nothing. And what it really says is all we're doing is using the LinkedIn Live network and the population, which is so great, because now you can get a subject matter that gets away from sales. There is no strategy, but the next step is best practices, because I look at everybody's profiles. I look at everybody's, here's what I'm doing every day. I'm doing 3 posts a day, 1 LinkedIn Live every day, a newsletter every day. And I still have time to do whatever I need. And no one's ever touched a keystroke for me yet in 3 years. So yeah, well, because, you want to get close to the ground. You want to get with the people. You want the people to get with you.
Yeah.
Anytime you're away from people through talking down, and I see a lot of that, disrespecting people's intelligence, and not giving people an opportunity that they need to have an opportunity. So anyways, why don't you speak to all that, Kelly?
Well, that was a lot, but I do feel like it's sparked a little something in me, because this morning, you doing all of those things that you're saying every day, which is so appreciated by so many, you're able to do it and it doesn't feel like work, or at least it doesn't come across that way, because it's important to you. and it does something for you. Like we said before we got on, I did say I am in a ball cap 90% of my life, but I had no intention of doing it this morning. I was running late. I had physical therapy this morning, and I got stuck in a car accident. When I rushed in, it was like, okay, what do I need to do to get to my desk by 8:50? And, cut out those things that really, so doing my hair ended up being one of the things to cut out because it was important to me to be here. So I made it happen. Because that seems like a silly excuse to me to say I'm not going to be there because I didn't get a chance to do my hair this morning. And then it also reminded me of a little bit of a longer story of being on time is something that really matters to me. And the interesting thing is, as a kid, it was what I did badly. I mean, my brother always gave me grief. He's like, Kelly, all you need to do is be on time and you won't get grounded. And I was always late because I was having fun and I didn't want to be interrupted. I was just kind of one of those. And I also had the thing of, well, if I'm going to be a minute late and I'm going to get grounded, I might as well be 2 hours late. But it turned out to be one of the things, punctuality is huge for me. Like if I'm not 10 minutes early, I'm late. That's how I operate, and particularly in business. And with any of my staff that I've hired over the years, I've always made that be a thing. You're at your desk and you're working at 8 o'clock. You're not just unloading and then going to the kitchen to get your coffee and make your breakfast and chat. You're working. And a young designer that worked for me had started to show a pattern of being late pretty early on after I hired her. And of course, I sat her down and had a conversation. Hey, this is not acceptable. You need to be here on time. And she was always very loud when she came in, flustered and trying to rush to her desk, and then would put her stuff down and do the whole and disrupt the rest of the team. And fast forward a little bit, I was like, you're going to get written up if this happens again. And she, of course, was late a couple of days later and came in just in a massive panic and made a huge scene and was crying, and, then came into my office. And granted, I was always one with my team to say, if you're going to be late, like I understand life happens, call me or text me just so I know, because I don't want you driving like a maniac trying to get here on time, because the work will still be waiting for you, whether you're 5 minutes late or an hour late. Life happens. And we went through her routine in the morning, just kind of to go like, what's keeping you from getting here on time? Because it's a habit. It's not that it's the world isn't happening to you, making you late. You need to partake in that to make it happen. So we went through different things, and she changed her morning strategy. And she, of course, then was on time. And seeing the change just in her work, the team, it impacts the smallest little things. But it was because I took the time and the empathy to be like, what's going on with this kid? This seems so ridiculous that 10 minutes is creating such a ruckus. And when I ended up leaving that company, which was one of the most emotional leavings I've ever had, she had given me this card, wishing me well in my new endeavors and such. And her quote that she wrote in there was, thanks for making someone who feels that they're ordinary feel extraordinary. And it just goes to that whole thing of, God, that give me goosebumps. It goes to that whole thing of when we take the time to actually care about someone else and show them some love and empathy, because other people would have probably just judged her. Like, she can't be here on time, get rid of her. She's extremely talented. All she needed was someone to sit down and take a minute and to care enough to hear, listen, and find a solution. And I feel like that is what's here, is everybody's listening to one another. How can we help you? We're all looking for that kindness and love, because that's what makes us explode into things that we didn't think we could do or didn't think were possible for us maybe at one time. So I think I gave you an extremely long answer there.
I think it was a high quality answer. I think it was a sincere, authentic experience, because when you tell an experience, you relive it, right? When you think of a meal with your family 15, 20 years ago where everybody was together and having a ball, that brings it back to you. You see the faces, you smell the food, you know, and that's what everybody needs to do, is plan their happiness, you know, because, you know, to the point of doing all these things I do, is that's what makes it worth doing, is having people who get benefit from you, right? You wouldn't say I'll feed my dog on Thursdays and Tuesdays, you know, and meanwhile I'll be right next to the pet, right? And it's the same thing as if you build something, you got to nourish it. Yeah. You've got to grow it. Too many people plant a seed and walk away and are amazed when nothing shows up.
Yes.
Right? It's the cultivation and the harvest that makes it all worthwhile. And what I see is everybody grows, everybody gets stronger. This is a weave, you know, everybody is part of this wonderful quilt, and everybody's got something that, like we always talked about, stone soup, right? Everybody threw some carrots in here or something and made it happen. And now it's like the more people that can hear this, the more people can do this themselves. And the idea is not to keep people in, but to make them soar and come back every so often and share the new story, right? No one should stay at first level if there's another one and a better one. And there's enough abundance that everybody can have more than they'll ever need. And there'll still be plenty left over, because abundance is something you create with the value you bring. And the thing I like most about Kelle is integrity, right? Because without trust, you've got nothing. All your conversations mean nothing if you're half the time thinking, are they really, you know, for real here? Versus somebody you know couldn't even lie if they wanted to. Yeah. It's just not in their DNA, you know, they just are like that. Brandy and Alex are finding commonality in Boston. I guess they both have a experience there. Kevin's here. Kevin's a great guy. Well said. Linda's always bringing in community. It's being part of community, share, learn, and grow. Only be able to around the world is such a blessing, and to continue as I had that in college. I got cut off a little, but I know your intention is to keep the fire burning here, right? Attracting more people who need this message and allowing them to hear it for themselves, right? And whatever it means to everybody, that's what it should mean to everybody. There's 870 million people. You know, I was thinking, if only 5% of the 870 million people on LinkedIn were motivated to hear our message, which I think it's higher than 5%, that would still be 40 million people. And there is no boundaries. There are no restrictions. You know, we're not, you know, promoting pharmaceuticals or anything. It's whatever we want to create for people who come to visit, right? And take something away from. You know, it's like a museum or a zoo, right? You create this environment of wonder, and all the people take some of that with them when they leave. And I think to make a better world is to have a better message that everybody is dying in a way to hear, right? Because the world's not going to change as quickly as people want, but the people in the world could change as fast as a trend goes, right? A fashion. So that's what I foresee here. Is we're not the messenger even. This is LinkedIn Live that's allowing this to happen. And the message has been here since mankind, yes. Right? Love, kindness, you know, respect. You know, I think people are just, that's so fashionable and no one's able to manufacture it. I think because, you know, materialism shows up, right? You start corrupting it by having to take what someone's giving and take it for yourself and not let it continue to grow outside of it. So anyways, you know, any comments are always appreciated. The nice thing, I think, Kelly, is we already got the groove here as far as knowing what the conversation has been and what people want to hear. So, you know, I'm just thrilled by your ability to reinvent. And, you know, I think that's key. Reinvention is based on redirection,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Right. And if I wasn't doing the 2-3 hours a day I'm doing for this, I'd be having to find something else to do for those 2 or 3 hours. And I'd be doing it because I don't have anything better to do. So when you find something better to do, what you want to do is build the biggest sandwich you can, right? So
Mm-hmm.
once you got something layered on with something else or a cake, you know, make it go to the sky if you want to. And now share it. See, that's the beauty of it. You could have stopped with a little sandwich for yourself, but if you start stacking it, all of a sudden it's like, I can't eat all that. Who's hungry around here, right?
But isn't that there's such a part of, and hearing you say all that, one of the things that really sparked in me was sharing the message, or sharing, you know, love, joy, positivity, whatever label you want to put on it, cultivating someone else or helping someone else, and sharing it in that way is also cultivating and feeding ourselves. I often get asked, you know, I'm a mentor to an at-risk youth here locally in Phoenix, and have always been very involved in, you know, coaching, and I've coached for, you know, and mentoring in a non-paid fashion. And everyone's like, why do you do that? And I said, well, it brings me such joy. Like, it almost feels selfish in the sense of, like, I walk away feeling so fulfilled and so gratified, because the beauty of all of it, when you really break it down, it's like, all I need to do is be present and bring my love to the situation. I'm not trying to fix anyone. And the magic that happens when you see it. My mentee is an example. The first couple of minutes usually that we're together, she has a little bit, and I don't want to say an attitude because that's wrong, but she's in the energy that she brought out of the house. And in a few minutes, and I'll always, you know, kind of test the waters, you know, how are you doing this morning? And, you know, fine is usually how it starts. And then I'll be like, do you want to talk, or do you just need to wake up first, kind of thing? And usually it'll be like, no. And then within, I'm not kidding you, 30 seconds, it's like the light bulb went on, because now I'm in my safe space. And she will talk nonstop about so many things, and is always just, and I did think, I'm like, what is a young kid going to want to hang out with an old lady for, you know, so to speak? And she doesn't see the age. All she feels is that I'm there with her in all the moments that I'm with her. I listen to her. I accept her exactly the way she is, and I don't judge her. And seeing that shift in someone makes me feel, it's like, what a blessing. I mean, that feels amazing. And I'm like, I wish I felt like that, you know, all the time, but that's not reality. However, that is a little bit of what goes on here too. People come in, and we've seen it in the comments, you know, people will be like, oh, I'm having a sluggish day. And then they're like, but man, now I feel great. And I'm leaving feeling like I just had a big giant cup of coffee. And, you know, so it's just a beautiful thing, because then what you do as listeners, you go out and you spread the same thing. It's that whole ripple effect that we talk about. And we need more of that. Social media is too focused on who can I tear down, and how quickly can I send the negative comment. This to me is sort of like, you know, the retaliation of all that negativity is, you know, hey, no, we're striking back, and we're putting this back out and into the universe, and for everyone. There is positive talk out there, because I do think there's way too much focus on how to say something nasty, and then that gets amplified. You know, the nastier you are, the more popular you are on some platforms, which I just completely don't understand, and it's very sad. So here, I love the fact that it's like, well, no, we're amplifying everything that's positive, and it's beautiful to see. And it definitely cultivates me and makes me feel, you know, better. And I know it grows me just by sitting here, whether it's listening and or, you know, sitting with you as a co-host.
Yeah, I mean, and it's beautiful because it's projected and people see it already. You know, it's not like, okay, here's what I got to show you. Now let me explain it to you. You
Right.
know, it explains itself. And you know, people come initially and they're, oh, naturally some intimidation, maybe some concern on how people will see them or judge them.
Yeah.
But once they slide into it and just decide it's okay to be who you are, where you are, how you are, and just, you know, get with the flow. You know, there's so much resistance. There's so much protection and defense before you even open your ears. You
Mhm.
know, you're thinking, how much can I trust this person? In most cases, none,
Right.
right? But when you sit through here and you say, you know, Linda Coleman isn't living a lie her whole life so she could say this today and not believe it, right? And everybody who's sharing a story, why would they make up a story to share when everybody's got millions they can pick from, right?
Right.
And you get, you know, if you were your own entertainment director, what would you show? What movie would you look at during the day, right? Would you look at somewhere you got turned out, somewhere you got betrayed? You know, is that still sticking around? You know, if it was something on the floor, you'd sweep it up and throw it away. You wouldn't look at it, let alone bring it into yourself. You know, and you know, you learn from so many things. And what I learned is if you pay once, don't pay twice, right? If you went through a bad experience, don't carry it with you and ruin a good experience or take up part of your life. And if you were the owner of your broadcast network, you would say, what do I want to do from 9 to 10? You know, I mean, I got my exercise time, because if you don't take the time for yourself, no one's going to make it for you.
That's
No
right.
one's ever going to say, hey, you look tired. Why don't you go to the Caribbean for a week? You know, it doesn't happen. Everybody like, well, okay, feel sorry, but we got to get it done. You know, it's like, heard you, don't mean anything, you know. And once you hear that, it's like, I'm not loved here. You know, I'm totally unemployable. If someone had said, what do you have for lunch? I said, what are you even asking for? You know, I mean, a simple thing like that. You get allergic to things that you get clean from, right? If you ever go somewhere like a spa and you get really, everything smells great when you leave, and someone puffs a cigarette in front, I was like, oh God, everything.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you're into high integrity people and people who got hearts, because that's the support you need. You don't need smarter people. And I don't know what smarter people are anyways. You know, I was always, I mean, I got a formal education, but I was taught a formal education will make you a living, a self education will make you a fortune, right? And it's what you learn to do and who you're around and how you're aware. And more importantly, giving up on an old self for a new self. And I think reinvention is so important, uh, because you can. You know, if someone says you got a 4-year-old car, can I give you the new model? You'd grab it, you know, but you carry the old model for whatever reason. And it's usually because you don't know any better. You grew into it. It just became comfortably uncomfortable. And
Yes.
right. And you found ways to deal with it. Or
Yes.
because I'm smarter and better, I can handle it. Nobody should have to handle anything, you know? And your last word, no, is the most powerful word in the universe, and so few people say it when they need to.
Mhm. Isn't that crazy though? I mean, when you think it's like such a a simple word, no. Um, Especially in business though. I know so many people, it's like you've got to learn to say no. Um, I think there's such a stigma. I'm personally am one of the I'm a very hard worker. I work at a very high pace. And I did have to learn though over my career that like not everybody works at my level. And that's okay. I can't expect, because I can sit and crank things out sometimes. I can get more done in 3 hours than some people can in an 8-hour day. That doesn't make me superhuman or better than them. It just means when I'm really zoned in and focused, I can speed through stuff. But then I need some time to regenerate after. So I need to go take a walk or what have you. But people have a tendency in business, particularly if they're starting new businesses, and I've seen this a lot since 2020, is they're taking on so many clients and they're burying themselves. So now this business that they tried to create, they're miserable in because they haven't said no, or they haven't learned how to, you need to fire that client. Like, it's okay to say, I don't want to work with this person. You are not bound to work with anyone. Granted, I understand in some situations you have to do things financially, but when you can, it is okay to break up with them and move on, because they can bring such misery, and which is, ugh. And like you said, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable on one hand is a good thing when you're pushing to improve and grow, but getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, situation of negativity and or just, bad vibes, whatever you want to say, person that you're dealing with in your life, get away from it.
Yeah, and it's as easy as deciding to.
Yes, it's a choice. And I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week who is he's doing some 30-day challenge and doing a lot of more self-reflection, journaling, etc. And one of the things he's supposed to do is get rid of something every day for 30 days. And he's like, man, I don't know what else to get rid of. Like, I went through my closet, I've gone through these things. And I go, well, did you ever think about like letting go of stuff like that you're carrying, like the baggage that we carry? And then it was like the light bulb sort of went on, and he was like, I didn't even think about it that way. And I go, isn't it interesting that you immediately thought it was all physical stuff and not about stuff, because it's about personal growth. So think about what things that we're carrying. And I do remember the first time knowing that I was carrying this burden and of pain, and a coach that I was working with was like, well, why don't you just take the jacket off and leave it there? Like, what do you need it for? It's warm enough without it. And it was kind of like, it sounds so simple, but I don't know. I don't know why I continue to wear it. And it is that thing. And when it does happen, you go, why didn't I do that sooner? Like, that just seems so, because we do choose it, even though when we're stuck in the minute of like, but I don't know how to get rid of it. It's because something in us isn't ready to get rid of it, because we feel comfortable holding on to it for some reason.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is kind of showing you can handle it, that you're strong enough, you got more room. And I look at it just the opposite, right? If something comes in, something has to come out, right? Or you're squeezing. And then you need extra room just to review and reflect. You can't spend all your time action oriented, because until you really review and reflect, do you really understand where you are right now instead of where you're just going tomorrow? Everybody's just moving forward instead of standing still a little bit. And the world's still going to spin just as fast, whether you're on pause or not. And the key then is to understand happiness is your goal, right? And it doesn't. Yeah, and it doesn't take much to ask yourself, am I happy right now? You'll know real fast, right? And if I'm not happy, how can I get happy? Right? Because if somebody you loved came up to you and said, I'm not really happy right now, Kelly, you would probably say, well, why not? Or what would it take to get you happy? And if it was a child, you say, yeah, I can get you a cookie and some milk, or hey, I can read a story, something like that. And usually that's all people need. If it worked as a kid when you're innocent and you're working with love, like Mario says, give somebody a hug.
Yes.
What does it cost you? I mean, and and I think to Kelly's earlier point, you have to thank somebody for allowing you to feel something you couldn't have felt without them. So when people say they need me, no, everybody needs each other the same way. Everybody needs to fill up. Your car doesn't go if you don't fill it up. And why not start filling other people up? You know, if you saw plants that were withering, you'd start thinking, hey, got to pay a little more attention to it, right? And at the end of the day, if you got paid for the good things you did for good people and even people you don't even know, and you know what I share with people after this, a lot of times new co-hosts, is I know we have given profound value to the people who were with us today. But I also know there's people we'll never meet that are going to get value from this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to continue. You know, it's a legacy now. And most of this, everything we're talking about is evergreen. In 40 years, you could talk the same thing. You might see different technology in different fashion, but the message will still be as relevant and more rare. And how do I get some of this is going to be the question. Not what is this, or is this what I'm looking for? You know, and I think anybody who can take this and integrate it in themselves, integrate it in their practices, right, is just being the best you can, the best way you can for as many people as you can in the shortest period of time with the least amount of stress. And that's why I think having your own channel, you already have your own channel, but no one hears it, right? Your channel is your voice. How loud can you shout? That's as loud as you're going to amplify that voice, right?
I can shout louder than most people probably want to hear.
Well, when you get a bigger microphone, it even gets louder then.
Yeah, and never in anger. I'm definitely not one of those, but I can definitely yell out. But I love all of what you're saying in the sense of, you know, it is evergreen. And how amazing is that? Because we're all human, and it doesn't matter 50 years from now, we're all going to need those same things. And I would like to think that, you know, our fashion is still going to be rocking in 40 years, Dawn.
Well, I know my hat is.
Me too.
You know, maybe that's one of the highlights is things like that can make people laugh and not try to impress people. You know, let people impress themselves. You know, there's, like I say, the platinum rule I talk about and the golden rule. And, you know, having the ability to express yourself openly, comfortably, and validating things and enjoying yourself. You know, that's why, you know, you should make time for celebration, and it's work, because it's easy to say, you know, if my celebration this week is putting a candle on a brownie, right? And spending 10 minutes with a cup of tea looking at something beautiful, you know, that's why not go all the way with the description? You know, why minimize your time? You know, if you're over serving everybody else, at least serve yourself. And if you look at your calendar, it looks pretty fun, right? Thursday brownie with candle, celebrating whatever it is this week. You know, 9 a.m. Mountain Time with Don and Kelle. You know, that's a good spot. You know, a couple people we met on the show. You know, and just like I said, talking with let me get her name right, Kendra, yesterday. You know, what was so cool is we began for like an hour, and
I love
you know, she had just transitioned from her old company, and I just happened to mention that, you know, a lot of times when you're working with challenging cultures and environments, you end up giving a piece of your soul all the time.
Yes.
Right?
Exhausting.
And after a while, you find out you can't even be who you want to be, because you got a filter here, you got a restriction there, you got to know, if I do this, I know what, you know, fast forward. And you know, when you pull out, you get all of that soul back, or at least no one keeps it. But what if you can add the qualities of souls that are offered to you, right? And fortify what you have, and not have to protect it, but make room to add it on to you. You know, and in turn, if it's just your thoughts, you know, they say if the only prayer you say is thank you, that's enough.
That's right.
Right? You know, and that's all you have to do. And even Mario was saying yesterday, the two most important sayings is please and thank you. You know, ask for permission. If someone opens a door, don't jump through the window, you know, and appreciate it with sharing that you appreciate it, you know. And I think, yeah, do more of it. Practice it. You get stronger with it. Why limit yourself? You know, if you're going to go all the way. There, you know, when you get off the runway, there's no going back, you know. And why not launch with the best you got? And that's what I love about this show is the meaningfulness of it, you know. And I know how many people only need that one word that can make a difference for them to keep going, or them to say, yeah, I'm going to get a brownie with a candle today. You know, I'm going to break out. I'm going to do something like that. And here's the thing. Everything is what it is, and then it's what you see and add to it for as long as you want. So I'm always looking at this in different ways. I look at this now like a symphony. Okay, like, and how do we build so much harmony? You know, how do we all come together with our own sound and make one glorious sound? You know, and I'm not worried about copying because I hope everybody can raise the bar for everybody. This message is too important, and the opportunity is too great for someone to have to buy a patent off the market or do something, you know, like that. And, you know, there's so much. And, you know, the joy is like Christine's coming tomorrow. You find like 8 or 9 fans that or friends that you're rooting for that you never met 2 weeks ago. And now they come into your life and they take up a lot of your time that used to be taken up either by nobody like that, or the worst is people that would, you know, steal your dreams, you know, suck your soul dry.
Yes.
And talk about the most superficial, unnecessary stuff as if it was the most important thing in the world to you. You know, and you can't leave that without getting some of that on you.
True story. And it's the worst, and it is exhausting. Like the taking the soul, and I so feel, because I mean I've been in that space. I get it. And when I say exhausting, it's not just exhausting because you have to edit yourself so much, and you're not being true to you. And that's the other part that's so exhausting. And when you finally leave the situation, you do kind of go like, my God, I just lost like so much. You lost the weight that was holding you down. And, you know, I visually, for people, say it's like having an anvil tied around your waist. And, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But I also feel like those days when you have that negativity or something that's so in the forefront, when you're having to edit yourself, they seem endless. Like they seem so long. And I can say that now, like my life right in this space and time, my days are flying by. And it's because everything is so great. But as soon as something, you know, negative or, you know, dark, however you want to say it, shows up, that time frame seems so much longer. And it's just kind of interesting how that happens, but it's also about how you approach it. And I certainly didn't learn that overnight, about dealing with people with negativity and how they come at you, and to know like, hey, this isn't about me, this is about them, and not carrying that. Like, I'm not taking the garbage that you're trying to throw my direction because you want to project your negativity on others because you want to live in that space. I don't want to live there. So I feel bad for you, but I'm happy as a clam over here.
Well, you know, it's so true what you say. And everybody's had family members that, you know, if you engage in a conversation in a certain way, you know exactly how it's going to end up because it always does. And what I decided is once I fast forwarded, I decided the sooner I could declare them a winner, the sooner it was over, right?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
whatever you believe in, you win, you know? And if that's what it takes to move away without confrontation or conflict or having to absorb any of that with you,
Right.
right? I always
Yes.
thought in a fight, if you broke somebody's arm and you just cut your finger, you still cut your finger,
That's
right?
right. Right.
So whatever the injury to the other person is never going to make up for, you know, like they got it worse. Well, that's, you know,
Right.
that's
That's still not good. And
strategy, you
yeah,
know.
and you can't have conflict if you don't participate. Like that's the whole thing is
That's
like,
right.
why participate in it? Don't. And I think what we're kind of showing here too is, you know, when you take someone, because I've definitely worked with people that were extremely difficult, and when you have a mindset of going in to deal with them, that it's gonna suck and it's gonna be awful, it's gonna suck and it's gonna be awful.
Hmm.
But if you turn your mindset, and I honestly now I almost find it entertaining with people when I know that they're like that. I get myself prepared and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go in because it's all about my attitude and what I want to take away from it. When you go at it with a totally different perspective and you're throwing your energy at them and just listening, that's a great idea. You know,
Hmm.
we'll have to consider that.
Hmm.
And exactly like you said, you get to the end sooner, and it's kind of like, and you kind of throw the person off too, which is sort of great. Um, but the expectation is all about what you make it. You can have it be okay when you leave if you decide that that's what you want to have. If you want to go in and like you said, well, I'm going to smack them first, and you know, so that they're hurt worse than I am when we leave. You know, the broken arm, the cut finger scenario. But like you said, you still have a cut finger. Why have that at all? You should leave being happy. Go in the way that you want. If you see it a certain way, I'm going to see this as a good thing. We're going to get something accomplished. You will, because how our mind is framed and set, we seek out to fulfill what we think. So regardless if the person is being a jerk, your mindset is in the space of, I'm going to take something away from this, and this I'm going to feel great when we leave. That's all you're going to absorb because you're fulfilling your belief. So it really, as simple as it always sounds, when people say it, it's so true. And I do find it a little entertaining with some people in that sense, because it's like, you're not going to rattle me. You can try all day long, but it's not going to work.
Hmm. Well, and that's so true because if you do feel in control again, you can choose, hey, I can disarm this person and leave this situation, or I could beef up and fight, right? And at a certain point, it's not worth fighting for, right? Just because someone calls you out doesn't mean if you wouldn't have done it before someone did it to you, you shouldn't do it when they do it to you. You know, if that makes sense. And if you're going to allow somebody to do something to you, you should allow yourself to do it to yourself first. You know, and I see, you know, I work every day. I mean, 7 days a week for years now, every day, because I love learning from it and doing it. I couldn't watch mindless TV for 2 hours
Oh,
and feel like I help myself, or even worse than that, news. Uh, and then I love people. I love being around people, and the last 3 years has put people in so much isolation and insulation that now when you can come together in real time with real people, and everybody has one thing in common, we're all sharing the exact same now together.
mhm.
Whatever we've experienced, whoever we've experienced, got us to here. But now we're together, right? Now we're in a great place. What do we want to build? It's like finding an island in the sun. Eventually, you're going to start building shelters. You're going to start, you know, being constructive, but do it as a group, and do it as a group that likes what this means more than something else. You know, because I always ask people, if not now, when?
Yeah.
If not us, who? Right? And why not? You know, because people sometimes they dream for something, and when it shows up, they're afraid to even embrace it because they never thought it would come. you know, or they thought it would come on their terms instead of just coming on its terms. And I think to Ambambola's point, I used to keep up with someone who made life so miserable and added no value in any way. During this time, I lost everything, even my sense of humor, and constantly felt moody until the day I said enough was enough.
Yes, girl, I feel you. I so was there. I and afterwards you're like, God, why did I stick out so long? And how I describe that period of time for me is my my shine wasn't dulled, it was turned off. And I was in a space of absolutely feeling nothing, which honestly is the most terrifying place to be. I didn't feel scared, I didn't feel fear, I felt nothing because it all had been so stripped away. And you know, turning that around, but once you get away from it and get on the, you know, the other side of it, and it's a journey to get to the other side, and Lord knows I needed my tribe, my family, my friends around me to help lift me up, and that's what this is. You know, we can be in that space even just by having a bad day. We had a bad interaction with someone and they knocked us down and we feel like garbage. For whatever reason, and that's because we're human, and life happens. You know, I will say I live in my happy space and I generate my positivity probably 90-80% of the time, but my 2% of the time sometimes really sucks, and I know that that's when I need my people more, and I'm aware of like, gosh, I'm really feeling crummy. And that comes from going through this time that Ambambola is referring to, having everything stripped away. You notice it because it's like, I don't want to live in this space. I remember what this feels like, and it's not great.
Yeah, and I think what happens is people don't always appreciate how many people are either going through what you've gone through or what they're about to go through. But to your bigger point, how many people waited too long that now maybe they say maybe the alarm just went off.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a year from now it will get no better and probably worse. And what is a future like that? You know, when someone blocks the light from you and stops you from growing and does it purposely, right? Not even to help themselves, but to hurt you. You know, there's too little time and there's too little quality time to waste on anybody who isn't supporting you and you're supporting. You don't want to be the person always taking either. There's no pleasure in that. But you know, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and I think, you know, one of those things too is give yourself credit for leaving it or ending it, whatever it is, that whatever that negative situation is. Because I definitely went through a period of time where I was beating myself up for like, why did I stay so long? And my mom had this awesome, simple thing. She goes, honey, the only way it could have been worse is if you would have stayed a day longer. And that's with anything that we do. Give yourself credit that you did it. And celebrate it. And even as small as it seems, and even through that crappy meeting that you sat with the negative person that causes you so much, give yourself credit and celebrate it when you leave, going like yes, I didn't interact and get into a conflict with him today or her, because I chose not to, because it doesn't benefit my life in any way. That meeting is not curing cancer or saving a life in most situations. So it's not worth it. But your happiness is, and just your frame of mind. So I'm a big proponent, obviously, of cheerleading, but cheerleading ourselves for those small things, because they're not small, they're big. That's a shift in mindset.
Well, and I think that's why everybody should hire themselves as their primary client as a life coach, right? What advice would you give somebody who gave you your story to you, right? And, you know, in other words, if you didn't have any skin in the game and you didn't have any ownership for what you are and who you are, because I think that's the first step is accountability. You've got, and responsibility. You just got to say, and it's easier that way. Whatever it is, I probably had something to do with it. I assume all responsibility, right? And I forgive myself, and I forgive everybody else, right? Forgiveness is where new life can begin. Because even if you leave somebody, but you bring that anger and hate with you to, that's sucking up space that could be loving space.
Way too much. And for me, and I think, Don, you and I have probably talked about this before, but the situation I'm alluding to in this case, my feeling was, after getting out of that situation, I was like, I made a conscious decision to say, I want to become better, not bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want it to change the way that I viewed life. Mm-hmm. I wanted to remember who I was. Now I was changed, and I knew that, and I was forever changed, but I could be forever changed in such a positive way. And that, again, is all about mindset. But I worked hard on that. And it is work, but it is about who you surround yourself with, what you're listening to, what you watch, what you read. Mm-hmm. Which, what you said about, television, like, I mean, suck my brain out. I feel dumber if some of these television shows that call themselves reality TV are just like, oh, they're garbage. And it's not reality, people. Like, they are so lying to you, and it's creating, people to be depressed and all of these other things, because the realities that don't truly exist, they're fake. This is real life. This is reality. This is reality TV. And this is what we need. And we need to tell ourselves this every day. I do on my mirrors in my home, in my bathrooms, I have, I can't think of the name of the fabric that it is, but it's not a sticker, but I have words on my mirror that says, you're beautiful, you're awesome, do something amazing today. I have that above my door. So every day I leave, that's what I see. And I think those are just those so simple little things, but they do make a difference. And how, again, goes to help our mindset get back into that space. If we've been, knocked out of it a little bit, or our brain starts taking over with its crazy negativity, which is so nuts, right? Because if someone ever took our negative self-talk, and I have said this to other people before, if your negative self-talk ever said those words to someone you love, what would you do? Mm-hmm. And the answer is always, well, I would, beat the bejesus out of somebody if they spoke to someone I love that way. Mm-hmm. Why is it okay for you to do it to you?
Well, that's a key point. And however it got there, however long it's been there, doesn't mean it should stay there.
That's right.
Right? If you had a tenant that never paid your rent and messed up your place, it wouldn't take you long to get rid of that person, right? It'd take like a minute. But why do you let someone live inside rent-free and then complain about it and make you go out of your way for them? Because it's almost like you can't get out of your own way, And for some reason, and whatever that reason is, it may take a lifetime and you'll never figure it out. So why try? I just believe some things are things I will never understand.
That's right.
Right? Never fully appreciate. But it just tells me, go on to a question you can answer. Go on to a project you can do, because you're only as good as what you say next and what you do next. Right? And if you can continue to bring value, continue to brighten people's lives, and this is real. This has been accomplished now. This isn't like we're heading to Buffalo and we're halfway there. This is like we're here, but it's only a way station, right? To get refortified and make the next part of the climb. And the bigger the climb, the better the view. And then the stronger it, and that's what you want to do, is live your life in something wonderful with wonderful people. And your life isn't that big that it can accommodate more than 20, 30 at a time anyways, right? So take the best 20 and say, I got what I need. Just like go to a supermarket. You know, I got my provisions for the week. Everybody else, go at it, right? I'm not here to own it or possess it or control it. I just need what I need and I'm on my way. And then hopefully I can help other people get what they need to get on their way, and maybe collectively, because when people find that it's no fun being alone at the top anyways.
No.
Right? Who are you going to celebrate it with? Who are you going to remember? Who are you going to continue to build and love going forward? You know, and people are simple. They really are. If they get their basic needs, and then they have some fun on top of it. And that's why I always say celebrate, enjoy yourself, do something ridiculous just to make yourself laugh.
Yes.
You know, challenge yourself to be a little outrageous at times. It's fun. And you know what? You laugh at yourself, and that's the best way of loving yourself.
Yes.
You
Oh
know?
my gosh, yes.
So, you know, we could talk forever, and I love to talk. We're talking. Here, last comments, if anybody wants to say something. Yes, not letting it steal your joy, becoming bitter. You know, and you know what I was thinking when you said that? It's really not fair to the next person who could take that position, right? Because it's already starting. You ever hear somebody says, well, I can't do it because 3 people did this to me and I don't want it to happen again. And you say, well, I wasn't one of the 3. What am I paying the price for?
That's right. You know, that's exactly right.
Like, hey, but that tells you some about who you're dealing with. And somebody now who might have been attractive is like, well, they just, you know, blew it, you know, by saying something like that, because it's the blame game. It was 6 years of waste and hurt. I beat myself up for staying long, hoping things would change, but I learned to forgive myself and stop regretting, but move on, and I'm happy now. Well, Emma, I can't tell you how brave it is to share this.
Yes.
And you know, and it's not only well received, but it's well respected.
And
right?
I just want to say on that too, that like, because I pick on certain words, like it wasn't a waste because it made you who you are. And I'm just a firm believer of that. I wouldn't change my life path because I wouldn't be who I am today. You know, I haven't gone through some great things, and it sucked at times for sure, but I will never say it's a waste because I'm still here and I'm stronger and I'm better and braver. I mean, and I see the world so much more different. So I don't want to say that I'm making a correction, but I don't think it was a waste because you're here and you're thriving and you're happy. So it was worth it to get here, and it is in your past. So, you know, God bless you with that.
Yeah. And you know what it shows? You overcame something that was not good for you.
Yeah.
And if it took you 6 years or 60 years or 60 minutes, you
yes,
did.
I'll go back to my mom saying is like, the only way it would have been worse if you would have stayed one more day, but you didn't. You chose to leave.
Yeah, and it's over. You know, every bad experience, I can always say it's done. You know, whatever it was, you know, like I said, I didn't like a dentist drilling, but eventually I said, well, how long does it take for that immense pain? And I said, probably 8 seconds. And I said, I can count to 8, you know, and when I'm done counting 8, it'll be over. Right. So it's putting it into perspective, and you got to, again, celebrate. I went through a very difficult time, but I got through it. And now I'm here, like Kelle says. And that's the important part of the story. Yep. It's worse if you are moving into it for the first time, right? Because now you're going to be facing the storm when now all of a sudden you got your own life back, you know? And it showed you were too generous and you gave too much for too long for not enough in return. Yes. And that's how you get emptied out.
Yep.
Right? Every time you go to the station, it takes more than it gives. And eventually you got nothing and nothing.
Yes.
Right? So congratulations. And you know, how many people are fortunate like Kelle to have a mother to give that advice? Right? And some mothers give the opposite advice.
Yes.
Right? It's your fault. You could have done better. You should have stayed longer. I mean, all that crazy stuff. So if you don't have that mother, and one day no one will, hopefully, you know, people don't want to ever see their kids out, you know, not live as long as their parents. But that's when you need a support group you can build yourself. You know, I kind of felt that life tells you everything you need to know if you're willing to listen to it, you know, and willing to try something new. You know, when things are so tough, I say, what do you got to lose? You're already as down as you could ever be.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it's a bad place to be, but you know, you didn't get there overnight. You can't expect to walk away overnight. But you know, every step you take towards a journey, right, will get you closer to where you should be and maybe where you always want to be. But I'll tell you one last thing. You'll have so much appreciation and gratitude when the sunshine is bright for you. Right? Because it's one thing to leave a bad situation, but it's another thing to compare it to now a great situation to say to yourself, well, you know, if I wouldn't have left that job or that person, I would have never been where I am today. You know, and I got to thank them for making my life so awful that the decision was so easy to make. Because if they would have treated me just a little bit nicer or listened to me a little bit more, I would have stuck it out. You know, so that extra measure of whatever it is that just said, that's it, you know, and everybody in themselves has a that's it moment, you know, and hopefully it comes sooner and with less time and trouble than old ones. Because, you know, once someone says they crossed the line, hey, you know, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't unring a bell. And one last thing, because I'm the same way with punctuality. I just find it a matter of respect of other people's time. And I can forgive one time. You know, anything can happen in traffic. I don't forgive it totally. I can understand it.
Right.
But here's what I don't. If someone's late and they don't apologize.
Yes.
That's even worse, because now everybody knows there's an elephant in the room, but the person's still trying to make, like, maybe they didn't catch it, or maybe they didn't think about being late. And that's the worst part. And then when people commit and say it'll never happen again, that's the first red flag. It's like,
don't use an absolute. It's always a mistake.
So, you know, listen to what people say, respect everybody, love everybody in the best way you can, but love yourself first, schedule your own time, be nice to yourself, because that's, at the end of the day, that's who you come home to, and you might as well be proud. So thank you again, Kelly. This has been great. I mean, it's therapy for me as well as everybody else. But more importantly, I'm smiling more, and I've got more ideas and thoughts to take me to the rest of my day. So thank you, everybody. Come back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Let me just tell you the lineup. Tomorrow we have Christine.
Yay! So exciting.
Yeah, and then Sarah's back on Sunday. Gretchen's on Monday. Christy Hunter is coming on Tuesday again. She did really great. And then
awesome.
Yeah, really great gentleman, Russ Hedge, on Wednesday. He's got his own show. He's got a fabulous story to tell. So new and existing co-hosts are just blossoming.
Thank you. And then I'll be back next Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. You always bring so much joy and insight and real value. So can't thank you enough. Everybody have a lovely day, and we'll see you in 23 hours. Bye.